Resident Evil Outbreak. One of my all-time favorite Resident Evil games now has an achievement set thanks to RetroAchievements, or RA for short. And if you've been watching my journey towards getting tons of platinum trophies throughout the years, I just want to say right now that RA cranks up the challenge by 100. I'm finding out today that trophies are there to appeal to the general public, while RA caters to the ones who are looking for some self-inflicted punishment. And through RA that I have found out that Outbreak not only has collectibles, but RNG collectibles at that. And not only are they RNG, there's a total of 260 RNG collectibles to get. And it doesn't end there because there are also these, again, random events that happen throughout the game, and these aren't counted as collectibles, even though it definitely feels like it still is. But we're not done yet because there's also beating each scenario on normal, hard, and very hard difficulties. But to unlock hard, I had to finish all 5 scenarios on normal, and to unlock very hard, I had to finish all scenarios on hard. So already that's a minimum of 15 playthroughs, which obviously I had more than that in total by the time I mastered the game. And there's also a bunch of cheapos per scenario, like getting a no weapon run to a no damage run. No, it's not the no death, it's the no hit. I can't get hit. Ever wonder what can be worse than a permadeath run when the requirement is taking 0 damage? Permadeaths are always doable because of the margin of error, even if it's just by a hair. There's still that wiggle room for a mistake. No damage runs are on a different level of insanity, only enjoyed by those of us who are truly sick in the head. God mother. Okay. Well, there goes our run. The only good thing about this challenge is that it's only per scenario, which is normally short, especially if you already have a speedrun tactic down. This would then be a breeze. Just gotta do this 5 times, and with the last scenario being the longest of the 4. Then there's the Lone Wolf mode, which as the name suggests, you're playing the game solo with no other friendly NPCs constantly trying to help you to the best of their peanut-sized brain.
20 minutes later.
No way, brother. Cindy, you actually sold. Gosh. Started spraying tornadoes with freaking pesticide. Yeah, Cindy, you dumb as hell. Oh my god. But all jokes aside, your AI buddies actually come in clutch on the last 2 scenarios, where they would eventually venture off on their own to get the other piece of the puzzle for you. And I cannot stress on how much of a time saver this is. But on Lone Wolf, there'll definitely be a challenge to do everything without help. So let's get started on my first day of this challenge with my favorite character in Outbreak, Kevin.
Yeah.
I haven't touched this game in years, and the only knowledge I have for this game is fueled purely by nostalgia alone. So the game plan is just by playing through all 5 scenarios casually with no goal in mind. The first scenario is at Jay's bar, where the first outbreak was seen in Raccoon City. And the main objective is to escape, as with the rest of the other scenarios. I remember getting to save Bob, the old security guard at the beginning, and getting a cutscene for it. But the cutscene only plays if I have Mark with me when I reach the rooftop. So here I am risking my life protecting an injured NPC for no reason, just for me to find out that there was no cutscene. Or maybe the cutscene only plays with Mark, now that I think about it, and that I had to leave him behind on the rooftop anyways. And the thing with Outbreak, and most of the OG Resident Evil games for that matter, is that you only fight when you absolutely have to, especially for this game where ammo is scarce along with health items, while the zombies spawn in infinitely. Obviously not counting Resident Evil 4, where your side objective is to cause a mass genocide. And in the first scenario, it doesn't have many puzzles that I need to solve. It's mostly just surviving the horde of the undead for the most part, and the final section is for helping the remaining cops to blow up a whole street to clear the zombie infestation, which means picking up the detonator parts and combining them to get an explosive ending to the first scenario, netting me my first Chivo in a game for finishing Outbreak. In the second scenario, called Below Freezing Point, I found myself in an underground umbrella facility. This is where it starts becoming more of a Resident Evil level, where I now have to find passcodes to get certain key items to progress. Mixing 2 key ingredients to kill a mutated vaginal plant monster blocking the ladder. Yeah, Capcom is wilding with this. And having to do another set of puzzles to defrost the entire lab and free the train so I could escape. There are also these frozen hunters as well that will get defrosted along with the train, and having to survive the onslaught of the worst enemy type in all of Resident Evil franchise, since these things can one-shot you at any given point in time. I didn't have a problem with any of them on my first run, since I decided to play the remaining scenarios on easy first, just so I can familiarize myself with the levels. Oh, don't give me that look. After successfully leaving the lab before freedom was to be felt with my warm embrace, the game then introduces its first boss fight. This giant gelatinous abomination isn't too hard to deal with. Luckily, I still remembered how to easily kill this thing, and that's with the use of the train. After escaping the horrors of the underground labs, that was another Chivo on the list. Chivo! The third scenario is called the Hive, where the survivors now find themselves, once again, stuck, but this time inside of a hospital. Already I wasn't looking forward to this level since this is where the game introduces an unkillable monster known as the Leechman. Well, I say unkillable, but there is a way to eventually kill this thing, but it does take some time to do so, because for me to even think of that possibility is to know what the code is to unlock certain floors for the elevator. This level is relatively big, and on my blind playthrough, it definitely took me some time to figure out where to go, while of course getting constantly chased down by the Leechman. To this day, I still don't know where I can find the codes for the elevator legitimately, and given that I neglect reading any notes of any kind in any given video game, that may be the reason why. I did a quick Google search on what the elevator code was, and it landed me on the rooftop, where I managed to get an MP5 from a dying cop. In confusion, realizing that this was the only thing I can get up here, I did end up running around in circles, spamming the action buttons in hopes of finding something of relevance. Turns out there were more codes, which eventually led me to the area where I can officially kill the Leechman. That is until someone else in your party ends up dying. Then they'll turn into the Leechman or woman themselves. For our current Leech person, however, it turns out that it was the doctor that died earlier, which he then drops a keycard to access a boat in the sewers for us to escape. Wait, they have boats in the sewers? Well, after grabbing the keys for the boat, I now have the option to leave this place once and for all. Except one of my companions wasn't here yet, and I was forced to wait for them before I could actually leave, because I firmly believe that no man should ever get left behind. Okay, I waited for like a minute, so this dude was probably dead, but on my way out, of course, I had to deal with another boss fight. Out of all the boss fights in this game, this giant fleshlight is probably the second most annoying boss that I've ever fought. This thing has a bunch of attacks depending on your distance, and if you're too far, it kinda just chills there, so you have to get in close for the kill. Fortunately, on this playthrough, I didn't have a bunch of issues yet, and with the MP5 at my disposal, along with Jim's noble and unnecessary sacrifice that bought me just enough time to blink, I managed to kill this annoying slime thing, finishing the Hive and popping the Chivo for finishing 3 scenarios as Kevin. Chivo! Hey, I got 2 of them. Also got an achievement for doing Kevin's thing 3 times. Doing Kevin's thing 3 times. Doing Kevin's thing 3 times. Doing Kevin's thing. After escaping the sewers, we now find our survivors running through the streets of the now infested city of Raccoon, only to end up once again trapped, but now in a burning hotel. This whole scenario is hard because of its tight spaces and the endless amounts of zombie spawns. But that's the only thing that this level had against me. The boss fight for this level is a female crimson licker, which in paper is a real problem, but in actuality is kind of a chump. And I'm not saying that because I'm currently on easy, but even on the higher levels, she was still a hanging target practice. Other than her spamming her tongue combo on us, there are tons of other lickers here to aid their Red Queen, but I continuously bombarded her with acts of ill intent, which neither her nor her goons were able to stop, which eventually I ended up getting saved by a bunch of firefighters and wrapping up Hellfire for another Chivo. Now comes the final scenario, and the longest and hardest one at that. Decisions introduces Thanatos, Outbreak's cracked out tyrant. After getting rescued by the Raccoon City Fire Department, our survivors were now held up in a temporary shelter that just looks like the basement level of the famous Raccoon City Police Department building, where George was summoned by one of his colleagues to go to Raccoon City University to potentially talk about a cure, only to find his buddy already dead. But that wasn't our only problem, as this scenario quadruples the size compared to all the other scenarios thus far, and also a constant threat from the most annoying tyrant in the entire series. Oh look, it's Nikolai. After grabbing all the required key items to make the daylight serum that cures the T-virus, it was time to cure ourselves from the zombie AIDS. Until Nikolai has set up the whole university with bombs, and now we have to get out of here and meet up with RFD and escape with a cure. But nothing comes easy, as I now had to fight my way and take Thanatos down. There are a couple things here that I didn't know I could do. For starters, I only grabbed 1 daylight serum, and I thought I just had to bring a serum and that would be our happy ending. Second, that there were actually one-hit weapons here that I could have used to make this fight a lot easier for myself. Unfortunately, because I didn't end up using the serum and my fight with Thanatos took longer than expected, I was forced to use it on myself, and at the time, I already knew that the bad ending was inevitable, even though I needed 2 serums to get the happy ending, but I didn't know that at the time. But that's another Chivo for the final scenario done. Chivo! Now that the whole story has been beaten, it was time to go for the rest of the achievements. Let's start with the collectibles first, the dreaded special items. Special items spawn in randomly, with half of them only spawning on easy or normal difficulties with 2 sets each, and the other half on hard or very hard difficulties with also 2 separate sets of SP items. And for some god reason, each god survivor also has their own sets of SP items in each scenario, but at least this one unlocks their alternate clothing, which I still need to buy.
What?
The only good thing about the collectibles is that I don't have to finish the scenario for them to count. As long as I pick them up, they are automatically registered on my file, as long as I save my game after quitting. The other thing that really sucks about this is that I am only able to collect a maximum of 8 SP items per run, for whatever reason. The scenario-based collectibles weren't too bad, except for 1 SP item that I can only get on very hard difficulty on Hellfire. And funny enough, depending on the difficulty, the game does make changes here and there, where a normal room where I thought the collectible would be is now a fiery death trap that left me in 1 HP. Oh fuck. What the hell? Well, I did run into the usual hiccups during my SP run, like dying. What the fudge was that? I do not know what happened. I don't know what happened. And this is a huge annoyance because while some are easy to get, some are only located either in the middle of the game or at the very end. Which means that I had to replay a scenario over and over again, grabbing all the puzzles and fighting my way to that spot, just to find out that the collectible was in fact still not there. Bro, there's no way I'm like this unlucky, bro. And all this just to get Alyssa's portable massager right next to the vagina monster. Okay, Capcom, you only need
The next day.
Let's go! I got it. Oh my god. My RNG today is phenomenal, bro. Phenomenal. Chivo. Anyway, after finishing 3 scenarios with each character for their individual achievements, I did still need to finish all of the scenarios with each one. So I did this while doing the collectibles to save some time. There we go. Chivo. But I now had to finish each scenario on hard difficulty as well to be able to unlock very hard. And in the first scenario, your typical zombies are now replaced by a bunch of giant scorpion cockroach things. And if you can't already tell how this run is going, just take a look at all 3 of us slowly limping away like we just broke out of a retirement home. While I still managed to beat the first level on my first try, even if I was a hair inch away from the pearly gates, it was just that. This is only the first level. Below freezing point on hard was surprisingly not as stressful as I thought it was going to be. My AI companions did struggle the entire time, and unfortunately, none of them had a happy ending. But I want to say that this scenario ended up being a pretty chill time. The Hive, however, was a different story, as this giant suction cup was, as expected, still messing me up. Jim was still trying to help to the best of his ability per usual, because that crutch definitely dealt a lot of damage. And that wasn't sarcasm, because at some point in the fight, I ended up running out of ammo. Thankfully, David King had his own pocket knife, where I ended up doing my last stand, because he was either that or heaven. And by the grace of whatever god you believe in, I managed to get the final slash in and luckily killed the boss before he killed me. Oh my god, did I do it? No way. Chivo. Hellfire on hard surprisingly wasn't as bad either, so much so that I thought I was going to be able to do this whole scenario with no damage. Oh my god, why are you so oh. Never mind. And just in case you guys didn't know, but Kevin Ryman is pretty much Outbreak Jesus. So the boss for this level wasn't even a challenge whatsoever. And for decisions, the only thing different here on hard specifically is that the trap that I normally use to stun Thanatos and get the serum is now busted on hard mode. So I actually had to lure Thanatos into opening this hidden door for me so I could use this trap to easily stun him. Give me a second, my bro. Give me a second, my bro. Please. Or you know what? Oh! This is gonna be hard. Y'all see that? Y'all see that? All right. Okay. 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 I did the thing. Okay. Oh. All right. That's fine. Yep. Just as planned. This is going poorly. Oh wait, all right. All right, this is it. Had to make it exciting for the stream, you know? Okay, so maybe not as easy as I thought. The final boss fight, no matter the difficulty, is a pretty easy experience with the rocket launcher on the first phase, as long as I don't miss, and the ampule shooter that insta-kills the boss, as long as I don't forget to grab an extra daylight serum. But that was the final scenario, and all other scenarios completed on hard. But now not only is Very Hard available, but also Lone Wolf. Before that, however, we still have to do all the events checklist. And this is one of the achievements that almost drove me
to insanity.
And this is because of RNG, with lower percentages than crown hunting on Monster Hunter, and funny enough, both were made by Capcom. I didn't have a lot of issues with the majority of the scenarios. Decisions was grindy mainly because I needed to get all the bonus endings for each character. This was a little bit challenging because for starters, I needed to have a specific AI companion pairing up with who I was currently using to survive the entire scenario for a special scene to play out. Oh my gosh, she fell off. Oh my god, Cindy died. Bro. I hate these AI, man. And during my time in Resident Evil Outbreak is when I realized how stupid your AI companions can be. Look at Yoko just casually walking. Oh, you dumb. Sorry, Yoko's dead. Can't stand these AI. Climb up. Oh my god, she's still alive. How is she still alive? Nope. Oh my god, she's still alive. And then she's going back to it. She don't give a and then she's just chilling there. My brother, what are you picking up? You picked up a pipe. This is what you're risking your life for, a pipe. Do you understand how stupid you look right now? Yep, here comes the shark. Yoink. Oh, she's still alive. Damn. Okay, she don't give a damn. She said, I don't care about no sharks. I will get my pipe. Will she make it though? Will she make it back? Yoko is just fighting. I don't know what the hell she's doing. Fighting against zombies. She's doing Sharknado 3. She's just chilling there. She actually wants to smoke. Yoko, get the hell over here, man. She actually wants to smoke. I can't kill her though. Spoke too soon. Yep. There she goes. And she's dead. Hellfire's events aren't also that bad, with one of them being kind of like a side quest where I had to bring the dog tags of the 2 firefighters that had just gone to the Shadow Realm, all the way to the end of the game to get a 3-second scene of one of their fellow firefighters honoring their death. Yeah, that wasn't worth it at all. Hive was probably the easiest as I just happened to get the 100% for the scenario on one of my cleanup runs. Now for some reason, the first 2 scenarios are where the RNG for these events just starts getting out of hand. For below freezing point, there is a part if I didn't kill the moth that it would eventually abduct me into its lair, which is pretty much at the same spot where I needed to get my fingerprint registered. Well, that was also part of the event's checklist, but what I didn't know was your companions could also trigger this event. So now the fate of this 100% is in the hands of my very bright AI companions. And there's no way to make this easier either, so all I could do is to just hang out here and chill out. Also making sure that both of them were out and about, exploring on their own like stray cats. Kind of like my untrained cats, however, seriously, please, just leave. But RNGesus was thankfully on my side that day, as George was dragged off by the moth and dropped off looking like teenage me after I had my first taste of alcohol. And one of the events also had me purposely missing the platform and failing the whole scenario. Let's go, Chivo. But nothing compared to what the first scenario had in store for me. Now let's get back to our buddy Bob. I need to play as Mark and help our buddy escape as well, which is easy enough, except for the fact that our speed is as slow as molasses. There are a couple scenes on here that I've never seen before either, like watching Will turn, but to get this I needed to be at the right spot while helping Bob just before Will the waiter starts craving for human flesh. After barricading the door upstairs, I needed both of my AI companions to be in the same hallway just for a cutscene to play. So if one of our guys was outside the barricade, that's the cutscene voided. If they're in another room, I have to wait until they come out and hope to God that we end up in this hallway at the same time before the zombies break the barricade down. Next scene is by the rooftop and experiencing Bob's final moments before... But on very hard difficulty, a different scene plays out instead. And just getting to that spot wasn't really a walk in the park either, since I had to speedrun and get all the key items before they decided to munch on Bob. And on very hard, the zombies aren't playing around, because once you get caught, that's a wrap.
Are you okay?
Alright, Cindy, I think Cindy, yep, Cindy got munched. Cindy is dead. But that wasn't even the hardest part of this achievement. Yep, it's the RNG. And then the first scenario is where I would slowly rip my hair out. There are a total of 4 completely random events. 2 of them is seeing a bottle fall and break from out of nowhere in 2 different locations, and the other 2 are hearing screams from 2 different locations, and this is where my villain arc was starting to brew. The first bottle I feel like I got really lucky with because it happened so early, so I thought, yeah, it's not that bad then. But hours slowly went by and my final drop never happened, along with any screams whatsoever. The next day I decided to continue on with the grind once again, until... Let's go! Alright, that's the bottle. But that would be the last of my victories that day because the 2 random screams in Jay's office and in front of Jay's bar were just not triggering. So much so that I was starting to question if the screams were actually real, slowly losing my mind. It was so bad that I dedicated 5 hours into it, just running to the spots in hopes to hear someone scream, and resetting the game just to try it again. 5 hours of absolute nothing. And I'm just glad that this is my favorite Resident Evil game because no sane individual would do this willingly. This took so long that it took me a total of 2 days before I finally got my first scream. Let's go! Let's go! Oh my god! That scared the crap out of me, bro. And even then, I was already a couple hours in, just daydreaming about anything at this point, just so I don't completely lose my mind. At this point, I was already on a roll and decided to get the final scream for a couple more hours, before I finally snap and scream myself. Yes! But with all the RNG events done, all I had to do was watch Bob turn, and that's the 100% event done and dusted. Okay, so for 100% collection is kind of like the events checklist, but not really. But I have to unlock every scene by watching them, literally like the events checklist. Why is this separate? But now that the mind-numbing collecting and RNG is done, it was time for the no weapons run, which is not really that hard. Well, most of them. For Outbreak, it was cake. Like, I don't think you need anything really since the scenario didn't have a boss. Below freezing point was just a matter of using the train. They did end up changing the Achiever requirements for Hellfire and decisions because of it relying too much on the AI to kill the bosses, which is again another huge can of RNG worms. As much as I wanted this to be a challenge, this game just has too much RNG for its own good, and I'm glad that I just needed to engage in the boss fight themselves and not really beating the boss with absolutely nothing. Because if they just ended up leaving it like that, it would just turn into this, but a lot harder and close to being impossible with just AI companions. And yeah, for some reason the Hive was not a part of this new requirement, so I had to kick the ever-living shit out of this leech thing until it died. Yeah. Let's go, dude. What the hell? Chivo. For the S rank achievements, it's pretty much just speedrunning through the game. Now it's time for Lone Wolf, which is surprisingly pretty easy again, because I could do this on normal. I did have a couple silly mistakes though, like getting bodied by the leash boss. For whatever reason, I messed up and ended up choking. Speaking of choking, I also missed my insta-kill rocket launcher shot because apparently Thanatos tapped into his anime flashback, which caused me to run out of ammo, and that caused me to get smacked up. Almost to the finish line now, and it was time to cover my very hard runs. Per usual, the first scenario was a breeze, as I sped and run through the entire thing like it was nothing. Reaching towards the end, I ended up calling the AI to follow me back to the truck so I could easily finish the scenario. Chivo. Below freezing point is something I needed to plan out a little bit, because not only did I have to finish it on very hard, but I also needed to not use the locomotive on this difficulty. So my game plan was to absolutely grab everything that I could, and for this level there are a bunch of chemicals that I can use as a throwable weapon, which does cause a bunch of damage. Not only that, but using Yoko, the Umbrella sleeper agent, has a special interaction with a dying Umbrella employee, which he then ends up giving us a desert eagle with 1 bullet. So now I had to defrost this joint and hide from all the hunters that are now looking for me at the back of this train. And if y'all are wondering where my companions were at, well, they died because they're dumb. And now that I'm at the boss fight, it was now time to pull a 10-10 move and do our hidden leaf technique, random bullshit jutsu on the boss, and mag dump everything from our inventory into this thing's artery. But of course, everything is normally easier said than done, as I was not counting on how many little minions this thing spawns in on very hard, as they tried their damnedest to stop me in my tracks. Yep, I'm about to go down. I have a broken ass shotgun. Yeah, this is the only shot I have. Yellow chemical bottles. Save me. I have 2 more. Let's go! Woo! Bro, I got hit 1 time, I'm dead. Chivo! For the Hive, per usual, this giant leech thing has bodied me for the 100th time this month. On my 2nd attempt though, I decided to play it smart and just do a bunch of Kevin's pot shots for maximum damage. Chivo! Now it's time for Hellfire, where I never had any issues with the boss here, so this should go well, as long as I end up surviving the random zombies lurking in the hallways. And just like in any other difficulty in this game, this spot is just busted, so all I had to do was shoot. Okay, so I know I said that the collectibles drove me crazy, but the final scenario on very hard almost drove me to the edge of a bridge. Because for this run, just like below freezing point, had a specific achievement that made this almost impossible to do. I have finished this scenario multiple times for different endings, and I've only beaten Thanatos without using the rocket launcher and the ampule shooter once, and that was on easy difficulty. But now there's an achievement for finishing this on very hard without using any of the cheese weapons. And that wasn't even the only problem I have, because once again, the scenario is so big that the chances of me dying before I even reach Thanatos is so much greater. With the AI companions, I only need to choose one side of the map to acquire one of the key items. Preferably not taking the route where the wasps are the main enemy because they're just annoying, especially on very hard. And on this difficulty, there's also a chance that when our companions start looking for the other key item, that they never show up at the usual meetup point. No way. That's not good. That is actually not good. Where's Yoko? And that's because they end up dying. At this point, I already have the first key item, so that's already a good 15 minutes. While restarting might be a better option, pressing forward is also a good option at this point. And there are times where I would actually push through without any help. At this point, I'm playing Lone Wolf on very hard, but with sheer motivation, I was adamant in getting this done. Because using ranged weapons works super slow on Thanatos, and I did do my research on how to somewhat cheese this fight. But at this point, I don't even count this as cheese anymore, since I need to practice on how to stun lock Thanatos himself. So most of this run is just me winging it and hoping for the best. I had to be quick to dodge while taking my sweet time to find an opening and slash once or twice, then repeat the process. At this point, I was treating this boss fight like I'm in a Souls game. All it takes is determination, and eventually I managed to beat his first phase. Unfortunately, the light at the end of the tunnel was definitely a train, as Thanatos ended and snuffed the tiny fire inside of me almost instantly. On my next attempt, a miracle happened. After completing my side of the puzzle, going into the next location with my fingers crossed, Yoko was alive and with the final serum that I needed for the cure. And this has now saved me 15 to 20 minutes of pure pain. My momentum and hopes were on an all-time high as I ended up having a really good run on his first phase. And now it was time to lock in on the final phase, and this achievement is mine. Oh no. At this point, I was already questioning life itself, but that didn't fully destroy me as I ran it back shortly after. I grabbed the capsule again, and now it's time to check on Yoko with the second capsule, just to find depression instead on our usual spot. And finding her once again on the ground, but at least she made it a lot farther this time. And once again attempting to keep the run alive, which was then interrupted by another agonizing defeat. I ended up doing another run, except now I'm just on tilt, though I did manage to make it to the boss fight as Kevin, which unfortunately ended up with the same result. And with that, I threw in the flag for the day as hopelessness lingered in my mind until the next day.
3:28 a.m.
But my mama didn't raise no quitter. No, she actually raised the dumbass. Because no amount of pain and suffering will keep me away when I set my mind into one thing, and that's winning. At this point, I already knew the mechanics, and that's by sticking to his right side as much as possible to enable the stun lock. It does this 2-swipe attack, which the second swipe can actually be dodged by slashing downwards. Obviously, I didn't get to perfectly do it all the time, but it made me avoid more crucial attacks than before, until I was able to finally understand the animation where I can infinitely slash at him until he caves. Final phase of the fight, and now I was locked in more than ever before. The goal is to play it safe until I can get a good opportunity to repeat the stun lock. I still struggled to get it started, but with enough determination, I was able to get it down. The hardest part about this is that I have to be absolutely perfect and wait until Thanatos does a certain animation, where he would just continuously do the hit animation until he dies. I managed to do the longest stun lock I've ever done, but he was still up. I didn't want to think about anything else since choking these types of fights is my favorite pastime. Sure enough, I would make simple mistakes that proved to be deadly, and now that I've used my last healing item, I was trying my damnedest to not get hit anymore. But that was easier said than done. This was my final chance because if he gets me in danger, that's pretty much the end of the run, as I can no longer evade any of his attacks. I did end up getting hit multiple times, and I already knew without checking that I was a hit away from being in the red. But all I could do was to focus on getting the slashes in his weak spot, and this would then get me to finally finish this oversized Speedo wearing bitch once and for all. Let's go, baby, let's freaking go. Oh my god. I'm shaking, bro. Here it is. Shivo! Very hard on hopeful. And yes, sir! Ugh. My victory celebration was cut short, however, because I now have the no damage runs left. The first scenarios were very forgiving, mainly because they could all be quickly finished in less than 10 minutes if you're just rushing through the levels. But 10 minutes can easily be an hour in a second in this mode, because everything and anything can end your run in a second. Even using cheeky tactics like catching you right after a cutscene. There were some lucky moments where I thought my run was over, like in below freezing point. A couple of close calls, but I did manage to pull through and finish the scenario without a scratch. Even the Hive, where I thought I would struggle at, turned out to be a smooth experience. And then there's Hellfire with the easiest no-hit damage run ever. Per usual. And surprisingly, I was even having a phenomenal run on the last scenario, which I honestly thought was going to be the worst one, until the unthinkable happened.
Wow.
I missed. Oh my god, I missed. I freaking hate this dude so much. That missed shot had just started a ripple effect of pain and agony. But I never gave up and kept pressing on, and just as Thanatos was literally one hit from defeat. Oh my. Are you close to death? Hey bro, that's so stupid, bro. Yeah, so. After that, if I just shot and that was a dum-dum, I could have just done that and we would have been done with it. But no. I got shoulder tackled. Oh, that is actually annoying. That's really annoying. One silly mistake just put me on full tilt, and now I couldn't even make it past the first section of the level. And that whole run just killed my momentum entirely. Even the frog dudes was risking everything. But I was so close to the end that I just had to rally and push through the hurdle. And now I had to force myself to lock in, just to get hit by Thanatos' surprisingly rubbery arms. And this drove me to my breaking point. So I had to take a slight break. But I can't give up now. I had 2 Chivos left till I mastered the game. So the next day, I was refreshed and ready to roll. Okay, now I'm ready to roll. But this game had other plans, and the only rolling I was doing was to my grave. And every attempt just seemed to be getting worse and worse. Okay. And not even Outbreak Jesus himself could save me from this rut. Good thing I have the stubbornness of an old man, because I never stopped, and I was determined to put this game to rest. But now it was time to end things, once and for all. Alright. This is the farthest I've gone. This is my personal best right now. As long as he does not swipe, and he focuses on Kevin or David, that is a Chivo. Let's go! Matt! Bro! You're my lucky charm, brother! Oh my god! Oh! Oh! Chivo! Let's freaking go! Oh my god, the no damage clear. He starts jorking it yeah, live on the stream. Yeah! For the last Chivo, I had to download a custom memory card from the forums, which I gotta say I was not a fan of. But for this Chivo, I had to finish a scenario with one of the quote-unquote File 3 characters. And after finally making it at the last bit, that was the final Chivo, and now I have officially mastered Resident Evil Outbreak. Chivo! And that is our mastered time, which is 100 hours. If you enjoyed that video, consider leaving a like and subscribing for future videos. I also stream all my runs on Twitch, so feel free to hang out and join me in my adventures. And until next time, keep it real, but not too real, because that's just boring, and I'll catch y'all later. Chivo!